Welcome back to Lineage of Lies, where the family stories we inherit meet the ones we finally rewrite. I'm your host. Today, a house, a crib, and a woman who stopped paying a debt she never owed. 3 weeks after I gave birth to my daughter Nora, I stood in my own kitchen, holding her against my shoulder, while my mother told me to pack. My brother's family needed the house, she said. I could find a rental because I was strong, and they mattered more. She said it the way you'd read a bus schedule. What my family forgot was one piece of paper filed at the county recorder's office. My name on the deed. My name is Oilia Owens. I'm 34, a NICU nurse in Dayton. For 12 years, I've cared for babies the size of your hand. I put myself through nursing school on loans and double shifts. Nobody came to my pinning ceremony because my brother Brent had a baseball tournament. In my family, that's how the math worked. I was the strong one. That was my title, my job, and my sentence. When Brent needed money, the strong one loaned it, and we all agreed loaned meant gave. When Dad died and Mom couldn't cover the apartment, the strong one had a spare bedroom. When anything broke, leaked, or cried, the family passed it to me like a dish to the person closest to the sink. And here's the confession that matters. I liked it. Being needed was the only currency my family accepted from me. So I kept paying, year after year, waiting for the invoice to come back marked love. 6 years ago, at 28, I bought a tired Colonial on Marigold Lane. The down payment was night shifts, Christmases worked, every holiday differential, a spreadsheet I kept like a prayer. My name on the deed, my name on the mortgage. The first night, I lay on the empty living room floor because I had a house before I had a couch, and felt something I'd never felt at any Owens family table, landed. Mine. My neighbor Miss D, 70 and sharp as a tack, brought cornbread and said, "A woman who buys her own house learns who she is, honey. Usually the hard way." I didn't know she was reading me my future. After Dad died, Mom moved into my downstairs bedroom rent-free. Somewhere in those 2 years, a quiet renaming happened. To her sisters, to Aunt Ruth, my house became the family house, as if carried down a bloodline instead of out of my paychecks. I corrected it gently once. "You're so touchy about paperwork, Oilia. Remember that." Nora arrived on the 3rd of March, 3 weeks early. Her father had left months before. So it was me in the delivery room, my friend Rosa holding my hand, and then me and a 6-pound girl with her grandmother's stubborn chin. Mom helped in those first weeks, cooking, laundry, but help in Carol Owens's hands was never free. It was scaffolding, and scaffolding means something is about to be worked on. Then, on a Tuesday morning in late March, my brother lost his house to the bank. By that afternoon, my mother had decided whose house would fix it. She stood in my kitchen, I keep saying my because she stood in it like it was hers, folded her hands, and announced that Brent, Kayla, and the kids would move in the first week of May. I should find a rental. "You're strong, Oilia. You'll land on your feet. You always do." I laughed. I thought it was a joke. It was not. "Mom, this is my house." And my mother looked at me with tired patience and said the sentence I will hear until I'm old: "Make room for your brother's family. They matter more." Right there, with my 3-week-old daughter breathing against my neck. The kitchen went so quiet I could hear the maple scratching the gutter. And I did what 34 years had trained me to do, nothing. I swallowed it, because the strong one doesn't make scenes. That night, I tried one adult conversation: calm, facts, deed, mortgage. My mother tilted her head and said, "Paperwork doesn't make a family. Sacrifice does." Then she went to bed in the room I'd given her. Around midnight, I heard her on the phone with Aunt Ruth. The truck was already booked. The announcement hadn't been a conversation. It was a courtesy call. Kayla added me to a group chat called Moving Day. 11 relatives. When she visited to see the rooms, I noticed a brass key on her ring. My front door key. "Mom, Carol had copies made weeks ago," she said, breezy as a forecast. Weeks before the foreclosure was final. The plan predated the emergency. Then a message slipped into the group chat. Brent had measured the nursery while I was at the pediatrician. The crib would have to come down. The day the crib came down, I came home from Nora's 6-week checkup to find it disassembled in my garage. White rails stacked like lumber, the mattress leaning with its cloud sheet still on, her mobile coiled in a hardware store bag. Upstairs, my mother was telling Kayla where the boys' bunk beds would go, something less babyish. They hadn't waited. My mother took apart my daughter's bed in the house I owned while a doctor told me my girl was thriving. I did not scream. I carried Nora inside, said, "There's coffee in the pot," and shut my door. That night, I triaged my own family. Black tag, red tag. The strong one was finally charting for herself. Then came the ugliest blow. County Children's Services knocked on my door. Someone had called in a concern for infant welfare, citing unstable living, possible postpartum crisis. The social worker saw a clean home, a thriving baby, and a mother who produces pediatric records in 90 seconds because she charts for a living. 20 minutes, unfounded. But my family had aimed the machinery of the state at me and my daughter as a pressure tactic in a real estate dispute. That closed every road back. I called a legal helpline. The attorney explained, my mother, having lived there 2 years, was a tenant. I had to serve written notice. But my brother? He'd never lived there. If he showed up, that was trespass. Thursday night, I sat at the kitchen table and signed the 30-day notice. My hands shook only at the signature. Some signatures end a childhood. I set it by the teapot. My mother found it at breakfast, packed her suitcase, and performed a banishment for the neighbors. I won't stay where I'm not wanted. When you come to your senses, you know the number. She kissed Nora, not me, and left. Her performance gave me what I needed. She'd vacated. The locks were changed that Saturday. Sunday came. The U-Haul took 2 passes to park. A family portrait assembled on my front walk. Brent with a box labeled Boys' Room, Kayla, the boys, Aunt Ruth in her church coat, and my mother, phone in hand, dialing. The plan was obvious. Mom calls, Oilia softens, the door opens. My phone buzzed, "Mom." I answered. Her voice was warm, the warmth from fevers and skinned knees, from before I understood the price. "Oilia, it's everybody. Enough now. Open the door and everything goes back. You're my good girl again." Through the window, I watched my brother on the truck ramp, a life meant to replace mine. I felt the pull, the old undertow. One yes, and I'd be inside the family again, warm, fed, and owned. "Mom, I'm going to hang up now. There's a speaker by the door." I walked to the intercom, pressed the button, and said into the Sunday quiet the sentence I'd whispered to my daughter in the garage, "This is my house." On the camera, my mother's face stopped. The script died. She stared at the door that wasn't opening. Her hand loosened. Her phone cracked on the brick walk, sharp as a bell. Brent set down the box. Aunt Ruth jabbed the doorbell, shouting. I said calmly, "You're on camera. You're trespassing, and the police have already been called." Officers arrived in 11 minutes. I opened the door only for them, handed over my folder, deed, mortgage, notice. 15 minutes to unwind. My brother looked almost relieved. A uniform had made the decision for him. My mother stood alone on the walk, cracked phone in hand, staring at the door. My thumb rested on the intercom. I didn't press it. Forgiveness and an open door are different sacraments. When the street emptied, I stepped onto my porch with my daughter. On the walk, a spray of phone glass glittered like the world's saddest confetti. Across the street, Miss D lowered her knitting and lifted her coffee mug an inch, the way you'd toast a ship coming into harbor. That's when I cried. Not in the garage, not signing the notice. On my own porch, in the sunshine, the weeping of a woman who has set down something she'd carried so long she'd grown around it. Afterwards, Brent took one of the apartments I'd offered. My mother moved in with them. I hear she has opinions about Kayla's kitchen. In September, a letter arrived. Whatever you think of me, I am still your mother. I put it in the box with Nora's hospital bracelet. Both things are true, and neither opens a door. Months later, my mother told me something. When she was 19, her parents signed the family farm over to her brother, 160 acres she'd worked since she was 8. He was the boy, she said. I stood there holding your uncle, watched them sign, and set the table for supper. Nobody made room for me. I carried it. That's what women do. In that moment, I saw her whole. My mother wasn't the author of this. She was a page in it, insisting for 40 years that the sentence that broke her was grammar. But understanding is not the same as unlocking the door. The lineage of lies stops here, with my name on the deed and my daughter learning a different story. I look at Nora now and say to the kitchen, to every Owens woman who ever set a table while her inheritance walked past, she matters more. The door stays locked. The mail slot works fine. If you carry one thing from my story, carry this: love that has to be paid like rent will never buy you a home. Build on your own name, and let in only those who knock softly. I spent 34 years tipping my family for a chair. The day I stopped, I found it had been mine all along. If this story reached you when you needed it, subscribe to Lineage of Lies. Tell me in the comments what you finally put down. I read every one. Until next time, keep your boundaries kind and your locks well oiled.